Story 1. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. Been here most of my life. I work at a tire shop off Route 66. Nothing special. Anyway, last year I took a solo drive to visit an old friend in Albuquerque. I've done the trip a few times, but this time I tried a shortcut someone at work mentioned. Through Amboy, California. Said it shaved an hour off and was way more scenic. Amboy's basically a ghost town. One gas station, old motel, and nothing but salt flats and desert for miles. It's got this weird energy though. You feel it before you even pull in, like something's watching you from under the sand. I wasn't planning to stop, but I pulled over next to the "Welcome to Amboy" sign. Took a photo for my buddy, more as a joke than anything else. Then I filled up at the one pump, grabbed a Coke, and kept moving. I wanted to beat the sunset before I hit the mountain range that cuts through to Interstate 40. As I climbed into the pass, I realized how empty it all was. No traffic, no cell signal, no sounds except the wind. The two-lane road wound through the hills like a ribbon, tall, dry grass brushing against both sides. It was hypnotic. I remember thinking, if my car breaks down, I'm screwed. Then I saw something up ahead in the road. I tapped the brakes. Maybe a quarter-mile out, there was a red car, older model, looked like a Fiero, parked sideways, blocking both lanes. There were clothes scattered all over, and two people lying face down in the road, a man and a woman. I slowed to maybe 15 miles an hour and coasted up slowly. Right away, something didn't feel right. You know that feeling when every hair on your body lifts? It hit me like ice water. The car wasn't wrecked, just parked. Deliberately, it seemed. The bodies were too neatly placed, like posed. The guy's arms were stiff at his sides. The woman had her palms flat on the pavement. No blood, no skid marks, nothing. I stopped maybe 80 feet back, kept the engine running, just stared. I keep a Glock under my seat. I've never had to use it, but I reached down, pulled it out, and rested it on my lap. My brain was screaming at me not to get out. Every instinct said, don't move, don't help, don't look closer. I've seen enough messed up stuff online to know when something feels off. I looked at the shoulder, tight, but maybe I could edge around. There was a gap behind the red car, just enough to snake past if I stayed sharp. I made the decision, dropped into first, gripped the wheel, and floored it. My tires kicked up gravel as I veered left of the man's body, swerved back right around the woman, clipped the very edge of the Fiero's bumper, and kept going. The whole thing took maybe 6 seconds, but my chest was ready to explode. I didn't stop, didn't even slow down. Drove for maybe 2 more minutes, trying to calm down. My heart was hammering, hands shaking. I kept glancing at the rear view, just out of habit. Then I looked again. The man and the woman were kneeling now, facing the road. And that wasn't the worst part. People, at least 20 of them, were coming out of the grass, slowly, from both sides, just stepping silently onto the road. No torches, no flashlights, no yelling, just shadows in ragged clothes, some barefoot, some with sacks or sticks, one holding a length of pipe. I don't know how I kept the car on the road. I smashed the gas and didn't let up. My tires squealed on a curve. I nearly lost it. But I didn't stop. I didn't look back again. I didn't breathe right until I merged onto I-40 and saw another car in my rear view. A trucker, thank God. I drove in silence the rest of the way to Albuquerque. Didn't even turn on the radio. Didn't tell my friend when I got there. Just said the shortcut sucked. The next morning I looked it up. I wanted to find something, maybe an old cult story, local police report, anything. But there was barely anything online. Just a couple of old threads about Amboy being a ritual site back in the 80s. Rumors of disappearances, mostly brushed off as urban legends. I don't know who those people were. I don't know if they were squatting in the area or waiting for someone like me. All I know is they weren't shocked when I saw them. They didn't act surprised or startled. They moved with purpose, like this was a routine. Like I wasn't the first car to come through. I think if I'd gotten out to help, just open the door even, I wouldn't be here. They wanted me to stop. They staged that scene like bait. I still have the photo I took of the Amboy sign. The weird thing is, when I looked at it later, there's a figure way in the distance, right at the edge of the salt flat. Just a black smudge that wasn't there when I snapped it. I deleted it. I never took that route again. Never will. Story 2. I was born in Vancouver but spent a few months living in Taichung, Taiwan, in my mid-20s, teaching English while figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. It was loud, humid, cheap, and full of distractions, which was perfect for someone running from a few things. I don't drink, so instead of hitting bars at night like some of the other expats, I'd walk the night markets, eat too much street food, and sometimes duck into internet cafes to kill time. One night in June, I was near the Zhongxiao night market. The place was packed, lights flashing, scooters weaving past families and food stalls. I'd just finished some grilled squid and was checking my phone when it started dying. I remembered seeing a sign earlier, Net Cafe 6F, in an alley just off the main street. I figured I'd charge my phone and maybe send off a couple of emails back home. I still remember the entrance to the building, cracked tiles, flickering fluorescent light just above the door, and a smell like mildew and old cooking oil. The lobby was just a narrow corridor, and at the end was an elevator with a mirror-finished door. That part felt newer than the rest of the building. When I stepped inside, it was quiet, ice cold, and had that typical new plastic and metal smell. There were only 5 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. I'd heard about buildings in Asia skipping the number 4, C sounds like death in Mandarin, but I'd never seen it before. I pressed 6. The elevator hummed and started rising. It stopped. No chime, no voice, just a soft halt. The door opened. I didn't step out. The hallway in front of me was pitch dark, like completely unlit. The only light was from inside the elevator, but even that didn't spill very far. It looked like some kind of abandoned office or apartment. I saw what looked like old furniture, maybe a cabinet, a chair with something draped over it, all coated in dust. I couldn't see walls, just shapes, like the place had been empty for decades. I glanced at the floor display, but it was blank. No number lit up. The 6th button was still glowing, so I knew I hadn't arrived yet. But if this wasn't the 6th floor, and there was no 4th, where was I? Then I saw movement. There was someone standing deeper in the room. I couldn't see their face, but I saw the shape of a person, tall, thin, wearing something loose, maybe a hospital gown or a robe. They were standing still at first. Then they started walking toward me. Not fast, just one foot in front of the other, dragging slightly like their legs didn't work right. I hit the door close button immediately. The elevator didn't respond. Nothing. I kept pressing it. The lights inside flickered, just for half a second, but enough for my stomach to drop. Then it went completely dark. I've never felt silence that thick, like sound got sucked out of the air. I was still hammering the buttons when the lights came back on. The doors started closing. Right as they did, the figure had gotten closer, still walking, still not looking up. Then the elevator moved again. When it opened, I was on the 6th floor, in a brightly lit net cafe. Everything normal. I stepped out like I'd just come out of a nightmare and no one had seen it. I didn't even sit down right away. I stood there, just breathing. A girl behind the counter looked at me like something was off, and I guess I looked shaken because she asked, in Mandarin, "Nime Shirba? Are you okay?" I asked her what floor we were on. She said 6. I asked if the elevator ever stops at other floors. She hesitated. "Which floor?" I said, "I don't know." It didn't say. She looked uncomfortable. I told her what happened, every detail. After a few seconds of silence, she said, "Some people say it goes to Silu, the 4th floor, but it's supposed to be sealed." I asked why it was sealed, and she just said, "Because someone died there, long time ago." That was all she gave me. When I left an hour later, I took the stairs. I still don't know what floor I was on, and I don't use elevators anymore unless I have to. Story 3. We lived at the end of a dead-end street in a quiet Ohio suburb, where every house had matching shutters and well-trimmed lawns. Our house was the only one on the street with its original phone, an old rotary mounted to the kitchen wall with a cracked receiver and one of those coiled cords that always tangled itself. It had belonged to my grandparents before us. The phone didn't even work anymore. My dad had disconnected the line when we switched to cell phones, but for some reason, my mom insisted on keeping it up there like some antique. This happened when I was 13. It was fall. I remember that because the backyard had those gross, wet leaves that stuck to your shoes and smelled like mold. We were eating dinner like usual, me, my parents, and my older sister. I don't remember anything particularly important about that night. Meatloaf, green beans, some argument about my sister wanting to go to a party, and my mom telling her she was too young to get kidnapped in a crop top. I wasn't really paying attention until the phone rang. Yeah, the dead phone. We all just stared at it. I even laughed a little, thinking maybe it was a ringtone someone said as a joke, like my sister playing something from her phone. But it kept ringing, slow, loud, mechanical. The kind of ring you'd hear in an old movie. My dad stood up and went over to it. What the hell? He picked up the receiver. No sound. He pressed it to his ear and frowned. Hello? Then he pulled the receiver away from his head and showed us. The cord was unplugged. Not just loose, literally hanging down the wall, not connected to anything. There was no way it could have rung. He hung it back on the hook. We all just sat there, kind of weirded out, but nobody said anything. My mom joked about phantom rings and tried to keep things moving, but my sister and I were both stiff. I was watching her more than I was eating. She was pale, biting her lip. The next morning, things got stranger. Our neighbor, Mrs. Sweeney, the kind of person who collects wind chimes and knows exactly how long everyone's trash bins sit at the curb, came over. She was holding a little spiral notebook and looked nervous, which was weird. She was always too confident, always too chatty. She told my mom she tried to call our house the night before around dinner. My mom frowned. We don't use that line anymore, Cheryl. Mrs. Sweeney nodded quickly. I know. I wasn't even trying to call you guys. I misdialed, meant to call my daughter's landline, ended up calling your number out of muscle memory. Old habits, I guess. Then she said something that froze all of us. But when someone picked up, I just stayed on the line. I didn't say anything. I heard you all talking. You were at dinner, right? It sounded like dinner. My mom's smile faltered. What do you mean you heard us? Mrs. Sweeney held up her notebook. I wrote it down. I know it's weird, but I thought, well, I didn't know what else to do. I was just going to hang up, but then I heard you say something about Diane's dog, and I got curious. My mom didn't say anything, but I could see her face tighten. She definitely made a few offhand remarks about Diane's yappy little pug the night before. Something like, if that thing doesn't stop barking, I'm going to drop kick it into the sun. Mrs. Sweeney opened her notebook and started reading. I swear that mutt barked for 3 hours last night. I think it's possessed. Then you said something about someone's weird driveway, Halloween decorations, skeletons having sex or something. My mom's mouth fell open. We said that. I know, Mrs. Sweeney said. I heard it, all of it. My sister and I were just standing there behind our mom, watching her face go slack. My mom finally snapped, Cheryl, that phone isn't even connected. We don't have a landline anymore. That phone hasn't worked in 2 years. Mrs. Sweeney looked like she wanted to believe that, but her hands were shaking and she wasn't even looking at us anymore. She mumbled something, then backed away, notebook clutched to her chest. I thought maybe it was some weird kind of surveillance thing, she said almost to herself. Maybe a baby monitor or a tap. But it wasn't just noise. It was your voices. My mom shut the door without saying anything. None of us really talked about it after that. It was like we agreed to pretend it didn't happen. But that night when we were clearing the table, I saw my mom go over to the old wall phone and take it off the hook again. She opened the back where the wires should have connected. There was nothing inside. Not empty, like broken, but hollow. Like the phone had never been hooked up to anything in the first place. Just a shell. She put it back like she hadn't seen anything wrong. Then around midnight, I woke up needing to pee and passed through the kitchen. My dad was standing there in the dark, just staring at the phone. I asked him if he was okay. He didn't turn around. He said real quiet, I listened to a voicemail. I just stared at him. What voicemail? His voice sounded wrong, like someone had stuffed gravel in his throat. From last week, I was checking my work messages on my phone. I must have clicked the wrong thing. I heard us, all four of us, at the dinner table, talking about the Sweeneys, word for word, like someone had been recording us. I swallowed hard. "Did you save it?" He nodded. We sat down and he played it. I heard my mom laughing, my sister's chair scraping the floor, my own voice asking for more potatoes. I remember saying those exact words, but what I didn't remember was the voice at the end of the recording. A fifth voice. It was right after we all got quiet on the recording, like one of those natural pauses in conversation. Then someone said clearly and softly, "They don't know I'm listening." Then the message ended. He deleted it right in front of me. Didn't even hesitate. None of us ever spoke about the phone again after that. Story 4, I live in central Illinois, a tiny town where nothing happens and the roads between cornfields stretch longer than your thoughts. I'm 28. I work night shifts at a gas station, and if you've ever driven through this area at night, you'll understand what I mean when I say the dark out here feels alive. It's thick, quiet, the kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat. This happened 3 years ago, on my way home from a buddy's place just outside Nokomis. It was past midnight, and I took the back roads, as usual, because it shaves off 15 minutes. They're narrow, no street lights, and just fields on either side. Flat land forever. I know those roads like the back of my hand. So I'm driving east down this straight stretch, barely awake, headlights only catching the gravel and a little beyond. Out of nowhere, I spot something up ahead in the middle of the road. At first, I thought it was a deer. That happens out here. But when I got closer, I saw it was a person, a man, just lying there, face down, stretched out across the yellow lines like he'd fallen or been hit. No blood that I could see, just clothes and skin. I slowed the car, dropped down to maybe 10 miles an hour, and came to a full stop 20 feet away. And for a solid 30 seconds, I just stared. Something didn't feel right, like instantly. Not even fear, just a kind of buzzing in my skull. My gut clenched. I didn't move. I didn't open the door. I didn't honk. I rolled the window down a crack and listened. Nothing. I looked out at the fields. Corn, tall, dead-looking, still. I leaned forward and looked again at the guy. He wasn't twitching, wasn't moving at all. His arms were down by his sides, not in front of him like you'd expect if he'd fallen. Just flat, like he'd been placed there. My hand went for my phone, but I had no signal. Of course I didn't. I told myself maybe I could help him, but something in me was screaming not to get out, not to open the door. Just this pressure building in my chest, like something bad would happen if I moved wrong. That's when I noticed the way his head was turned. It was just a little too far. Not broken, but like it had been rotated past where a normal person's head would go. His face wasn't fully visible, just the side of his jaw and ear, and his mouth. His mouth was open, just slightly. Wide enough to be smiling? I don't know why that detail stuck in my head, but it did. I kept staring at it, frozen. Then I whispered out loud like a total idiot, "Hey, are you okay?" He didn't move. I hit my high beams, still didn't move. Then I eased the car to the right and slowly went around him, tires crunching gravel as I half drove off the road to make space. I didn't take my eyes off him until I was past, and that should have been it. But as soon as my car's rear tires hit the pavement again, I glanced in the rearview mirror. And I swear to God, he was standing. No movement, no in between. Just standing, straight up, arms still by his sides, his back to me. Same clothes, same spot. I hit the gas, hard. I didn't even scream. I didn't breathe. I just floored it. I didn't dare look again for a good mile. When I finally checked the mirror, the road behind me was empty, but I didn't slow down. Not until I saw the lights of a truck stop up ahead. I pulled in, ran inside, and just stood there next to the coffee machines like some tweaked out lunatic. A trucker asked if I was okay. I nodded. I lied. I said I hit a deer. I never told anyone the truth. Not even my friend, not even my girlfriend. Just posted a throwaway Reddit story once that got ignored and deleted it an hour later. But here's the part that keeps me up. I went back the next day. I had to. I didn't tell anyone why. I just said I left something out there. Headphones or something, whatever. I found the exact stretch of road. I pulled over. No body, no signs of one. No tire marks in the gravel. But in the cornfield, right where the guy had walked off, there was a trail. Flattened stalks like someone had walked backward into it. No wind damage, no animals. A clear, narrow path leading in maybe 10 feet, then stopping. No prints, no blood, just a path. And hanging from one of the stalks at the edge, a strip of flannel, red and gray, torn clean through. I don't know who or what I saw, but I can still see that mouth, that too wide smile in the dark. And I still don't take those roads at night. Not ever again. Story 5. I don't care if no one believes me. I wouldn't believe it either. I live just outside Helena, Montana. Nothing but pine and rock for miles, with maybe a neighbor's house a half-mile down the hill, if you count a man who never opens his blinds. I work nights at a mill about 30 minutes away, so I usually sleep during the day. But this happened on a Sunday. I was home. I wasn't even tired. That's the worst part. I was awake, alert. Around 3 p.m., I was stacking split wood by the back fence when I noticed something off about the tree line. It's about 40 yards from my back porch to the forest. I know that stretch like my own face. It's empty, always is. But something was there. It was standing completely still, right where the light cuts off and the trees start. I thought it was a burnt log at first. It looked black and tall, at least 6 feet, but too narrow to be a tree. Way too narrow. I squinted at it. Didn't move. Not a shake. Not even in the breeze. But here's what threw me. There were no birds, no wind, nothing. Just dead silence like the air was holding its breath. So I stood there, still holding a log, staring at this thing. 10 seconds. 15. Then I shouted, "Oh, hey!" Just that. Just one word. Loud. And the second I did, it moved. But not like a person, not even like an animal. It didn't walk. It slid sideways, like something broken being pulled by a string. Same posture, same shape. Didn't turn or change direction, just shifted along the edge of the trees about 5 feet to the left in one solid motion. I froze. I dropped the log without meaning to. My first thought was someone was messing with me. Some weird hunting suit, ghillie camo maybe. But who the hell would do that out here? It's my land. No one even comes out this way. I backed up slowly toward the house. Didn't turn my back though. It still hadn't moved again. It was just there. Watching, I think. I don't know how, but I knew it was watching. I stepped up onto the deck and grabbed the sliding glass door handle. The moment I touched it, I swear to God, the thing bolted straight toward me. Not running, not bounding. Just this smooth, impossible glide over the grass. Fast as hell, not making a sound. I yanked the door open, nearly broke the damn thing, and slammed it behind me. I didn't even lock it. I just dove behind the kitchen counter and waited. But it never hit the glass, never knocked, never touched anything. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes, not moving, barely breathing. My phone was on the table by the couch, but I didn't go for it. I couldn't bring myself to lift my head over the counter. Finally, I peeked. Nothing. No shadow at the door. No sign of anything outside. I crawled to the living room, pulled the curtain aside just an inch. The thing was gone. I started breathing again. Not fully, but enough to think maybe I imagined it. Maybe I saw some weird reflection or had a heat stroke or something. I stood up and tried to laugh it off. Told myself it was a bear or a big bird that caught the light weird. Told myself anything. Then I turned around, and the sliding door was open. Just a crack, maybe 4 inches. I know I shut it, I know it. I'd have bet my life on it. I heard it slide shut, felt it lock into place, and I didn't hear it open again. No footsteps, no wind. But it was open. Not wide, just enough to see the edge of the forest again. And when I looked, it was there again, right where it started. Same shape, same height, but closer this time, like 20 yards out instead of 40. I didn't even scream. I couldn't. I locked the door that time, pulled the curtain shut and ran upstairs. I locked myself in the bathroom with my phone and called my brother. He lives down in Butte. He didn't pick up. No one did. No calls went through. My service was full bars, but every call dropped after one ring. I stayed in there for 4 hours. Sun went down. The bathroom has no windows, so I couldn't see anything, but I swear I heard it. Not footsteps, not tapping, just this low hum, like electricity, or a dull, distant voice you can't quite make out. At 9 p.m., I finally came out. Lights on, baseball bat in hand. House was empty, doors locked, nothing broken, but in the kitchen sink was a dead robin, perfectly intact. No blood, no wounds, just dead. I haven't seen a single bird out here in months. Story 6. I live in a quiet suburb outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Ranch-style house, nothing special. Just me, my wife, and our 5-month-old son, Jacob. We moved here last fall because we wanted more space, more room for him to grow. First-time parents, still getting the hang of everything. The nursery's at the end of the hall, across from our bedroom. That's where the changing table is, and I swear to God, something is wrong with that room. I'm not one to jump to conclusions. I'm 34, an electrician by trade. I've worked in crawl spaces, basements, old hospitals. I've seen and heard plenty of weird shit that had an explanation. Popped wires, rodents in ducts, settling pipes. I'm not a paranoid guy, but I've also learned when something feels wrong, you pay attention. The first few times it happened, I chalked it up to baby stuff. Jacob would lie on the table, I'd undo the diaper, and he'd fixate on something, just over my shoulder by the doorway. Never the ceiling, never the lights. Just that one spot, always. His eyes would go wide like he recognized something. I figured he was reacting to shadows. Maybe the hallway light behind me, maybe the trim. Babies stare. They don't know any better, but it kept happening. Every single time, every diaper change, same spot, same wide eyes, no matter what time of day. I started watching his face more than I watched what I was doing, and I noticed. His expression wasn't passive curiosity, it was something else. His mouth would twitch, like he was deciding whether to smile or cry. His eyes would water, but not from crying, just leaking. His whole body would go rigid. It wasn't normal. I didn't mention it to my wife at first. I didn't want to scare her. But I got weird about it. I'd try standing in different spots to see if his gaze would shift. It didn't. I'd wave my hand between his face and the door. Nothing. Like he was looking through me. One time I picked him up mid-change, turned him around, and he immediately craned his neck, trying to look back at the spot. That's when I stopped pretending it was just baby nonsense. Last Tuesday, around 8:30 at night, it got worse. My wife was in the shower. I took Jacob into the nursery to change him after a bottle. I laid him down, unsnapped his onesie, reached for the wipes, and I felt him go stiff. Not wiggly, not playful, stiff. I looked down and, sure enough, he was staring past me, eyes wide open, not blinking. I turned to look. There was nothing there, but my chest locked up like I'd walked into a cold room. I glanced behind me. Nothing. Door was open, hallway empty. No sounds, no lights flickering. Just dead quiet. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey, bud, it's okay." He didn't blink. He didn't even look at me. Just stared. I bent lower, trying to block his line of sight with my head. That's when I felt it. This pressure, right behind me, like someone's standing over your shoulder, like when someone's about to say your name and you know it, even if they haven't said a word. Every inch of my skin prickled. My scalp tightened. The hair on my arm stood straight up. I turned again. Still nothing. But Jacob's eyes darted to follow the same exact spot, just past my head. And then he smiled. Not a baby smile. Not the goofy, toothless kind. This was slow, wide, too wide. His lips stretched, and his eyes didn't match the smile. They were still locked on whatever was behind me, like something was making him do it. I whispered, "Stop it." I said it out loud. I didn't mean to. It just came out of my mouth, like a reflex. I suddenly felt very, very watched. The hallway was still empty. Then behind me, right behind me, I heard the tiniest creak. Just one, from the floorboard by the doorway. I froze. Jacob's smile dropped instantly. Gone. His lips trembled and he started to whimper. Not cry, whimper, like he was scared. I scooped him up so fast I almost dropped him. He clung to me. I backed out of the nursery without looking back, heart thudding like a drum in my throat. We went straight into the bathroom. My wife looked at me like I'd seen a ghost. What happened? I just shook my head. Don't ask. Just, can we sleep in the living room tonight? She didn't ask again. I didn't go back into that nursery for 2 days. When I finally did, I brought a space heater in, just to have some noise going. The silence in that room gets thick. It presses on you. I notice the dog won't go in there anymore either. She stops at the threshold and whines. That's new. And Jacob still stares. Every time, I've started changing him in the living room. Look, I'm not saying there's a ghost in my house. I don't even believe in that crap. But I'm telling you, something stood behind me that night. Something that made my son smile in a way I never want to see again. Something that knew exactly where I was, exactly what I was doing. You can rationalize it all you want. Baby behavior, pareidolia, sleep deprivation, fine. But when your 5-month-old locks eyes with something you can't see and his face twists into that kind of smile, you move the changing table, you move it, and you don't look back. Story 7. I grew up in Hume, back when Manchester still had rows of soot-stained terraces and you could smell coal fires on every street. I'm 60 now, but what happened to me when I was 13? God help me. I've never spoken about it outside the family, and even then, barely. I don't care what anyone thinks, it happened. I saw it, I felt it, and it took something from me I never got back. It was late autumn, 1933. Our house was one of those narrow ones, all crammed together, 3 floors, thin walls. You could hear the neighbors arguing through the fireplaces. There were 7 of us under one roof. Me, my 2 older brothers, Mom, Dad, and my mom's sister, Auntie Nora. She'd come to live with us after her husband died in a mill accident. That night I remember being cold. We didn't have central heating, just a fire downstairs and hot bricks we wrapped in towels and brought to bed. I got up because I needed the lav. It was outside, but the upstairs landing had a wash basin, so I went there first. Quiet as anything. Everyone else was asleep. I was walking past the staircase, the moonlight coming through the back window, when I saw someone standing at the top of the next flight, right near the attic stairs. Just standing there, still as stone. I thought it was Auntie Nora at first. She had this long white nightdress she wore. Same building, same posture. She was just staring out the window like she was waiting for someone in the back alley. I wasn't scared yet, just confused. I remember whispering, "Auntie?" But she didn't move, so I walked up slowly. You know how wood stairs creak, right? Every step, creak, creak. And still, she didn't turn around. I stood beside her, looked out the window. There was nothing there, just the backyard, the ash bins, a bit of frost glinting on the stone flags. Then I turned to her, and that's when everything changed. It wasn't her, it wasn't anyone. The face, it didn't have one. Just skin, blank, smooth, stretched over the skull like wax. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. But somehow it looked at me. I froze, couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. The air went tight around my throat like it had been sucked out of the hall. Then it reached for me. 2 hands, long, thin fingers, ice cold, came out of the sleeves and grabbed my cheeks, held my face like it was studying me. And I swear I heard something, like a breath or whisper inside my own head. Mine. I don't know what happened after that. Next thing I remember, I was on the floor, in my brother Kenneth's arms. He was shouting, "She's freezing! Get a blanket!" and dragging me into the bedroom. I couldn't see straight. Everything felt slow, like I was underwater. They said I passed out. For days I drifted in and out. Fever, delirium. My mom said I kept mumbling, "She's on the stairs, she's watching me." But that wasn't the worst of it. When I finally got better, I realized something was off. Mom brought me tea and toast, and I told her it smelled funny. But it wasn't the toast, it was me. I couldn't smell it. Couldn't smell anything. Not the bacon next morning, not the coal smoke, not the carbolic soap, nothing. I've never been able to smell well since. Doctors said it was a nerve thing, trauma, maybe a fever damaged something in my brain. But I know better. It took it from me. That thing, whatever it was, it reached in and took something. Auntie Nora swore she never left her bed that night. Kenneth told me he heard something like whispering in the hall and came out just in time to see me swaying like I was going to fall down the stairs. He never saw anyone else. Years later, long after Auntie passed and Kenneth moved to Canada, I went back to that house. Story 8. I don't talk about this much. I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, born and raised here, and I've spent most of my adult life guiding hunters and tourists through the Selkirk Mountains. I've hunted those woods more times than I can count, in snow, in fog, in dead silence. I thought I'd seen everything, until last November. I was alone that day, bow hunting for elk. A client had canceled last minute, so I figured I'd go myself and scout a new area. I went deeper than usual, past the marked trails and into the denser parts of the range. I had GPS and survival gear on me. I wasn't being reckless. But around mid-afternoon, clouds rolled in fast and heavy. It got dark, really dark, like twilight at 3 p.m. Dark. I tried heading south toward a ridgeline I recognized, but the forest felt off. I've never been one to spook easy, but everything was dead quiet. No birds, no wind. Even the crunch of my boots in the snow felt too loud. I started thinking I must have gone in circles. GPS wasn't working, just frozen or glitching out. That's when I saw the cabin. It was just off to my left, tucked in a shallow clearing. No smoke, no tracks. Looked abandoned. It wasn't some rotting shack. Looked pretty well kept, like someone still used it occasionally, maybe a fire watch post or an old ranger station. I wasn't trying to break in or anything, but I was cold and the sun was almost down. I knocked first. No answer. I pushed the door open, slowly. Inside was a single bed, a wood stove, and a table with a chair. One room, 4 walls, clean and dry. No signs of anyone. I called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" Nothing. I figured I'd stay the night and leave a note explaining it in case the owner came back. I've slept in worse. It wasn't until I shut the door that I noticed the walls. The entire place was lined with portraits. Must have been 30 or 40 of them, all hung evenly, spaced like a gallery. Not paintings exactly, more like old photographs, but glossy and thick. Like they were laminated or something. Each one showed a face, just the head and shoulders, staring straight ahead, and every single one of them had this look of absolute hatred. Not fear, not sadness, pure loathing. They weren't gory or anything, just intense, like they were caught mid-curse. Every single one felt like it was looking directly at me. I mean, I've seen hunting lodges with creepy decor, but this was something else. The eyes didn't follow you, they glared. I walked around the room, trying to understand them. Men, women, even a couple kids. Different ages, but all with that same twisted expression, like they'd been screaming when the photo was taken. I told myself it was just weird art, maybe some twisted collector. I sat on the edge of the bed and faced the door to avoid looking at the walls, but the hairs on my arms wouldn't settle down. It felt wrong. I kept hearing tiny sounds like breathing, but faint and not from me, like something exhaling in sync with my thoughts. I stood up, turned, and covered one of the pictures with my jacket. It was the worst one, a woman, her teeth clenched, eyes wide, as if she were about to leap through the glass. Even covered, I still felt her behind me. I lit the wood stove, had some jerky, and forced myself to lie down. I told myself I was just tired. I turned my back to the room and pulled my beanie over my eyes. Eventually, I fell asleep. I woke up sometime later. The fire had gone out. The room was cold, but filled with this pale blue light. I thought it was moonlight at first, but it felt off. I opened my eyes and stared at the wall in front of me. That's when I noticed it. The wall didn't have any portraits on it. Not anymore. It was covered in windows, dozens of them, and through each one, a face stared in. Not pressed to the glass, no condensation, no breath marks. They were just there. Dozens of faces, same as before, frozen in expressions of fury and malice, illuminated in that awful blue light. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body was locked. My chest felt like a steel band had clamped down around it. I wanted to shut my eyes, but I was terrified they'd disappear and be standing inside. The worst part? I could feel that they knew I saw them. Their eyes were alive, not reflections, not glass, alive. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Minutes? Hours? The light didn't change. It wasn't moonlight. It was something else. Like the world outside the cabin had stopped being night and started being something else. Something colder than night. I must have passed out or blacked out. When I woke again, it was morning. Sunlight came through the window above the bed, normal and warm. I sat up, heart pounding, and spun around. The walls were bare. No portraits, no windows, just plain wood. I checked every inch. No holes, no frames, nothing. The only window was the one behind the bed. I left that place fast. I didn't eat, didn't pack up. I ran until I found the trail and then kept running until I hit a road. A couple hikers picked me up and gave me water. I told them I'd gotten lost and spent the night in the woods. I've tried to find that cabin again. I went back twice, searched everywhere near where I thought I was. Nothing. No clearing, no cabin, no trail. Just trees and silence. I don't hunt alone anymore. I don't even camp unless there's a cell signal. I didn't dream it. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. Those faces were real, and they were looking in. Story 9. I'm not proud of how this happened. I should have trusted my instincts. I live in a quiet, dead-end neighborhood in central Wisconsin. One of those places where you leave your garage open and wave to the same jogger every morning. My name's Lena. I'm 19 now, but this happened when I was 15. My parents were out of town for the weekend, some wedding in Green Bay, and I was left alone in the house with our German Shepherd, Bandit. I didn't want to be left alone. I told them that. My dad just laughed and said, "You've got Bandit. That dog would eat an intruder." And it's true, he was massive. The kind of dog people cross the street to avoid. It was late October, cold. I got home from school, locked up the house like I was sealing a tomb, and tried not to look out the windows after dark. I'm not usually a scaredy cat, but that night, I don't know. Something felt off. It wasn't anything I could put my finger on. It was too quiet. Not peaceful quiet, dead quiet, not even wind. Around 9 p.m., I went through the house again, checking doors and windows. They were all shut, but the latch on the basement window in the laundry room wouldn't lock properly. It had been like that for a while. My dad kept saying he'd fix it. I shoved the thing down hard and left it. That's the one part of the house I hated. The basement was unfinished, damp, and the window looked out onto the darkest side of the house. Nothing but trees and blackness. I brought Bandit up to my room with me. He usually slept on the floor right next to my bed. That night, for whatever reason, he crawled under it. I laughed and said, "Big scary dog hiding from the boogeyman?" He didn't growl or bark. He just went under and stayed there. I reached down, patted his head, and felt his tongue lick my hand. Typical Bandit. Always reassuring. I couldn't sleep. I laid there for maybe an hour, scrolling through TikTok and checking the door again. Just paranoid. Eventually, I dozed off. It was the dripping that woke me. A slow, rhythmic plip, 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 coming from the bathroom across the hall. My bathroom faucet had always been a little leaky, so I didn't think much of it. But when you're half asleep and home alone, your mind grabs at the worst-case scenarios. Still, I wasn't about to go creeping around the house in the middle of the night. I leaned over, reached under the bed to reassure myself, and Bandit licked my hand. I fell back asleep. Not well. I was tense the whole time. Second time I woke up, it was louder. That same plip, 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 but faster now. More insistent. I reached under the bed, Lick. I whispered, "Good boy," and tried to shake the feeling growing in my gut. The third time, I swear I wasn't even really asleep, just stuck in that half-dream, half-aware place. But now the dripping was almost like pouring. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I sat up and listened hard. No footsteps, no voices, just the sound of water or something hitting porcelain. I reached under the bed one more time. Lick. That's when I knew something was wrong, because I realized, finally stupidly, that Bandit never licked. He wasn't that kind of dog. He was protective, sure, but not affectionate like that. It hit me like a cold slap. I froze, arms still stretched under the bed. I whispered, "Bandit?" But there was no movement, no tail thump, nothing. I yanked my hand back and sat there listening. The dripping was constant now, fast and wet and awful. I got up. My knees were shaking. I grabbed my phone and used the flashlight, not wanting to turn on any lights. I crept out of my room and into the hallway. The bathroom door was cracked open. The dripping was coming from inside. I pushed the door slowly. I don't think I screamed. Not really. It was more like everything in my body just shut down. Bandit was hanging from the shower rod. Someone had strung him up by his collar and slit his throat open like a deer. Blood, his blood, was everywhere. All over the tile, the tub, the mirror. The sound I'd heard was it dripping steadily from his body into the drain. I think I backed away. I remember my phone clattering to the floor. Then I saw the mirror. It was fogged, like someone had breathed on it, and written through the blood with a finger. Sloppy letters dripping at the ends. "Humans can lick too." I ran. I didn't grab my phone, didn't grab anything. I bolted out the front door barefoot, screaming like a maniac down the street until one of my neighbors came out and took me in. Cops came. My parents were called. The whole block was up all night. They didn't find anyone inside the house. Not a trace. No prints. No signs of forced entry. The basement window was open just slightly, but nothing else. Bandit was gone by the time I got back. They'd already taken him away in a bag. The only thing left was the blood and the writing on the mirror. I haven't stayed alone since, and I don't sleep with my hand hanging over the bed anymore. Ever. Story 10. I've never told anyone this in full, not because I'm worried they won't believe me, but because I genuinely don't like to think about it. I was 10 years old when it happened. We were living in a temporary rental in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town while my parents' house was being built. It was an older house, probably 50s, creaky floorboards, thin doors, weird layout. Just a basic one-story, kind of worn out. We were only supposed to be there for 6 months. The bedroom I had was small, and my bed was pushed up against the far wall, opposite the door. No TV, no clutter. I liked it simple, but something about that room always felt off, even before this night. The corners seemed too dark, and at night the silence would feel heavy. Not just quiet, heavy, like the walls were holding their breath. Anyway, this was sometime in mid-spring. I remember because I had the window open a crack, and I could hear crickets and wind moving through the trees in the backyard. I wasn't asleep yet, couldn't get comfortable. It was around 1 or 2 a.m., I think. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, eyes adjusting to the dark. That's when I heard it, faint noises coming from the dining room, shuffling, nothing loud, just soft, deliberate movement. I assumed it was my mom or dad, maybe getting water or looking for something in a drawer. The sound continued for maybe 30 seconds. Then it stopped, and the silence afterward felt strange, like everything in the house had frozen. I rolled onto my right side, facing the wall. My back was to the door now. I just wanted to shut my eyes and let the quiet put me to sleep. But then I got that feeling, like someone was watching me. Not a weird metaphorical thing, but a real solid sense that there were eyes on me from behind. The kind of feeling that makes your skin tighten. I cracked one eye open and glanced at the wall. That's when I saw it. Its shadow. There was a shape between the window and me. It wasn't touching me, but it was close. Too close. It was squatting, knees bent, hunched down like it was trying to be eye level with me while I was lying on my side. Its head was tilted, slightly cocked to the side like a dog trying to figure something out. But it wasn't curious. It was studying me. It was solid black, like a silhouette, except not cast by light. There was light coming in from the window behind it, moonlight filtering through the blinds. But this thing didn't catch any of that. It didn't reflect or absorb it. It was just this dead black figure blocking the light behind it, like a hole in the room. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I don't even remember breathing. I was just frozen. It didn't make a sound, didn't shift or speak, just stared. I could see no eyes, no mouth, no detail, but I knew it was looking directly at me, not in a passive way. It was like it had been waiting for me to notice it. I wanted to scream for my parents. I really did. But the second the thought hit me, the thing tilted its head further, like it knew I was about to scream, and it was warning me not to. Not violently, just knowing. I have no idea how long I stared. Could have been 5 seconds or 5 minutes. My body wouldn't move. I was trapped. Eventually, without really deciding to, I rolled slowly back over onto my other side, facing the wall again, away from it. My heart was in my throat. Every second that passed, I expected to feel something touch my back or whisper in my ear. But nothing happened. I didn't move the rest of the night. I stayed locked in that position, too scared to even look again. My brain kept trying to explain it. Hallucination, shadow, dream. But I knew what I saw. When the light finally started to change and I could hear birds outside, I moved, slowly, rolled back over. The corner where it had been squatting was empty. No signs of anything, just my desk, the floor, the chair. The air felt different too, like whatever had been there had taken some part of the room with it when it left. I got up, went to the hallway, and checked the rest of the house. My parents were still asleep. I asked casually that morning if either of them had gotten up during the night. They both said no. My dad made a joke about how he could sleep through an earthquake. My mom said she went to bed around 10 and didn't wake once. They had no idea anything had happened. I didn't push it. That day I tried to convince myself it had been a dream, even though I remembered every second of it too clearly. It wasn't hazy or dreamlike. It was sharp, visceral. And here's the part I've never told anyone. A few days later, I checked the carpet in the spot where the thing had squatted. Just curiosity, I guess. I didn't expect anything, but there was a faint dent in the carpet, like something heavy had crouched there for a long time. It wasn't a footprint, just a shallow, perfect depression about the size of a person curled up low to the ground. We moved out 2 months later. I never went back in that room after that night unless it was daylight and someone else was home. I don't know what I saw. Thanks for watching. Don't leave before leaving a like to this video. Also hit the subscribe button to support my work. And as always, have a horrific nightmare, my dear.